Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So in this video, I'm gonna ask you to pray for continued good workplace chemistry. I mean, I have a pretty sane workplace now, but it hasn't always been that way, and I can't take it for granted. So why don't you guys continue to pray for me? And this video is a Peter Dislike Show because it's a career-related prayer, right? All right, sing along with me, gesture at the screen, and please leave a dislike on this video. Let's do it again. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So once again, I want you to pray for continued good health, especially in regard to mouth sores. They really are a very sore issue for me, pun intended, in terms of career matters. I'm a professor at uh, two different community colleges, and the mouth sore really puts a wall between me and the best performance I can give. And it's hard for me to elaborate on that. Just believe me. Let's put it this way. I'd be willing to give up. Let's see. I have 4 tons of bismuth. I have other assets, obviously. I'd be willing to give up half of my assets if I could never have a mouth sore again, guaranteed. I really would. I'd make that trade in a heartbeat if it were possible, right? That I'm sincere about that. So pray that I never get another mouth sore. It's worth $1 million to me to have my mouth be comfortable all the time. Although, if I were to pivot my career and start making art full time, I think I'd be less concerned about the mouth sores. I'd still value having a comfortable mouth, but it'd be a personal value rather than a career value, right? If I were to pivot my career and become, or let's do an even worse case scenario. If I were to pivot my career and become some kind of a voice actor of some sort, right? Somebody who has to speak a lot, right? If I had to give talks a lot, right? So, for example, Elon Musk is always talking at TED, right? If I became a politician who had to give speeches all the time, right? Then that would be even worse to have a mouth sore, right? Not because it's painful, but it just constrains good talk, right? Like in the middle of teaching my favorite subject, I'm constantly thinking about it really pigeonholes how I present my material. Just believe me, it's very hard for me to elaborate on this. There is one other thing I need to do at my workplace, though. You see, ever since starting my work at Phoenix College, and then I continued it with the other colleges, I've made it a policy to always say no when my colleagues ask for various favors, especially to fill in for an odd shift and all that. And the reason for that is that I suck at making human decisions on when to say yes and when to say no. So I kind of make it a blanket policy, always say no. And I called it being Nancy Reagan, right? The just say no, the Nancy Reagan policy, right? And unfortunately, it's kind of backfired in 2 ways. Number one, it doesn't feel good. I say no to somebody asks, can you come in on Saturday? No. And then Saturday, I have nothing better to do anyway. It just feels, it's not a good feeling. I'd rather be feeling good, but at the same time, I would hate to say yes, and then 2 Saturdays later, when I actually have something to do, have to say no to a different colleague. I don't like to play favorites like that, right? And so, but at the same time, I've lost that feel good feeling. The second reason I want to stop being Nancy Reagan is that there are times when I need to ask for favors as well, and it's really tricky. Like I just had to. Fortunately, there's plenty of extra time in this class, so I was able to take a day off to go see a lunar eclipse on September 18, which is not a big deal. The class has a lot of extra time anyway, but it made me really uncomfortable asking for the day off, knowing that I plan to say no to everything else, right? And so I'm going to have to think hard about how to say yes, judiciously say yes. I had a big problem when I was in Seattle. I had a colleague who Fortunately, we don't have policies like that here. I had a colleague who asked me to donate some vacation time to her. She had a sister who was going through long COVID. Her sister had two children, and I kind of got excited because her sister, I want to say, was in her late 30s, early 40s, and a single mother. And I thought I could get to know her someday. Her children were 8, 10 years old, I want to say. And I don't want to raise young children, but I'd be willing to date somebody who had children in their teens and 20s. So someday. And so that's why I gave her one vacation day at first. What's really insulting is that these vacation donation policy is really insulting. I'm glad we don't have that here at the community colleges. But it's really insulting because the person who needs to ask for time off, they're not asking for half a day, 1 day, 2 days. They're usually needing a few weeks to deal with a chronic illness or a bereavement of some sort, or in her case, an illness or surgery, or a procedure of some sort, right? And so if you give half a day, 1 day, it looks really insulting for somebody who needs 2 weeks for a procedure. And so I gave her 1 day, and then obviously before I could even think about it, it was already spent. And so I gave her another 6 days because I really wanted to get to know her sister. But after I gave them to her, she stopped talking to me. I asked her how her sister was doing. I think she had a 10-year-old daughter, an 8-year-old son. And so I was thinking maybe a few years, or more like 10 years from now, I could get to know her niece as well. But none of that panned out, and they just stopped communicating with me altogether. And after that, I made it a blanket policy to just say no anytime somebody asks for any sort of favors. And now I've been kind of feeling lonely because of that. So I need to sort that out on my end. Fortunately, we don't have that kind of policy here. But other kinds of I just hate to be playing favorites, right? If I have 2 weeks of vacation time and I give to one colleague and I don't give to another, right? It's not like if I had unlimited to give, right? Maybe that would be a different story, right? But you get the idea, right? The other thing I want to do, the other thing I want to do is I want to be sleeping better because sleep deprivation is really putting a drag. I get irritable at people. And one of my least favorite things, and this is, again, getting back to the favors, there's one favor I really hate when people give me. When they hold doors for me. I want to get every bit of exercise I can get. And this one drives me nuts. And to give you an idea of how badly it drives me nuts, if I see somebody 10 feet in front of me about to go into a door, I'll literally back away so that they don't hold the door for me, so that they can go in the door can close, and then I can go open the door. And so I really hate having to follow somebody into a building because they'll hold the door for me. And then I'll forget to hold doors for other people because I'll be thinking about how I hated when people hold doors for me. It just gets really confusing. And sleep deprivation will just take that up to a whole new gear. I'll literally scream at people, don't hold the door. I need exercise. And it just looks really silly. But I need to be sleeping better. I need to be strategizing better. But I don't know why. I so badly hate it when people hold the door. I always feel that somebody holds the door for me, and that was it. That was the one time I didn't get exercise, and then 5 minutes later I have a heart attack. I mean, there's certainly a small probability of that happening, right? I don't know. I feel like the unluckiest human alive sometimes, and that's why I really don't like to take chances like that, right? All right, so pray for some good workplace chemistry for me at my new job. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum, 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum, 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 bum.